Hello and welcome to today's class. Today we're going to explain countable and uncountable nouns. We're going to see which nouns can be countable or uncountable depending on their meaning, the determiners we use depending on whether the nouns are countable or uncountable, and the quantifiers. First, let's begin with what do you think what it is a countable noun and with what is an uncountable noun. As we have agreed in class, countable nouns are those nouns that you can count the units of. An apple, a chair, a student, whereas uncountable nouns cannot be counted by the units. Some sugar, some salt, some water, some bread, they are usually substances. As countable nouns can be counted by the units, you can use the plural forms as you can have more than one unit. Therefore, you can use the plural. In the case of uncountable nouns, you cannot use the plural because you cannot have more than one. So that is why we always use some coffee, some homework, some money, some sugar, some salt, some rice. We cannot use the plural with these nouns. Now, depending on the meaning of some words, you can use either as countable nouns or as uncountable nouns. We have seen some of them in class. We are going to review a little bit. We have iron, that is countable if it is an electrical appliance, and uncountable if it is the material you do things with. Chocolate, if it is a part of a box of chocolates, as we have seen in class. If it is the food, like a bar, like as in a bar of chocolate or some hot chocolate, then it's uncountable. As the same with glass. If it is the item, the actual item where you pour water in, then it's countable. If you were talking about the material, then it's uncountable. Same for wood. Wood as in forest is countable, with wood as in the material you use to build things is uncountable. With cake and pizza, we use countable forms when we talk about the units, the whole cake, the whole pizza. When we are talking about portions, they are uncountable. And as for fish, we can count the animal, but we cannot count the food. When we refer to the fish we eat when it's dead. So, what kind of determiners we use with countable nouns? Well, obviously we can use an as in one apple, an apple, 3, 4, 5, the numbers when we are counting, but we are going to focus on undetermined determiners. That is, determiners that do not tell me the exact amounts of things there are. We use with plural countable nouns. As we have seen, we always use them in affirmative sentences, like there are some students in class. We can use any as well with plural countable nouns. But in this case, we're going to use them only in the negative and interrogative sentences. For example, there aren't any apples, or are there any biscuits? In the case of some, we can also use them. We can also use this determiner when we are asking, but only when we are offering or requesting something. For example, would you like some biscuits? Or can you give me some pencils? The reason for that is that some has a slightly a more positive sense than any. So when we are offering something or when we are requesting something and we use any, we actually mean that we don't care whichever item they give us. Whereas when we use some, we certainly want to make sure that it's some quality, that you're not giving me the bottom of them. So then we also can use no with plural countable nouns, but in this case only in affirmative sentences. As you know, it's agrammatical in English to use two negatives in the same sentence unless you're trying to focus on something. So whenever we have a negative sentence with a not, we are going to use any. But if the sentence is an affirmative and yet we want to convey a negative meaning, then we can use no, as there are no apples. As you can see, there aren't any apples and there are no apples have basically the same meaning. But one is affirmative and the other is negative. In fact, when we use no instead of aren't any, there is a slight more focus on the fact that there are no apples, that we have run out of them. So the negative sense is a little bit more focused on by using no than by using any. As for any, we can also use it in affirmative. When we use any in affirmative, it means that it doesn't matter which. I don't care. Whichever you give me would be fine. For example, bring me any book you like. I can also use some, bring me some book you like. But with any, we've kind of emphasized the fact that we don't care which book they choose. So, these determinants can be used as pronouns. Not only some and any, but also a lot of, as we will see afterwards. Pronouns, the difference between determinants and pronouns is that pronouns are not followed by nouns. Determinants always have a noun afterwards, whereas pronouns are just stand by themselves. For example, do you want some water? Yes, I want some. This some is a pronoun substituting some water so that we don't have to repeat again that we want some water. It's the same with the second sentence. Do you have some juice? No, I don't have any. There's no need to repeat juice because any stands for some and juice. Do you have some juice? No, I have none. Just mind that when we are using the negative pronoun, we no longer use no as with the determinate, but none. This is very important because otherwise we are not using the pronoun and the meaning is not the same, plus it will be incorrect. So with uncountable nouns, basically we use the same determinants, but in this case, and in the same sentences, in this case, the nouns following some, any, no will be in singular because as we have seen before, uncountable nouns cannot use the plural form. So we use some with uncountable nouns in affirmative sentences. For example, there is some paper in class. Any with uncountable nouns in singular in negative and interrogative sentences. There isn't any juice, or is there any sugar? As with the countable nouns, we can use some when we are asking, but only if we are offering or requesting something. Would you like some tea? Can you give me some water? The reason is the same as with the countable nouns. As you can see, the use is the same. The only difference is that as we are having uncountable nouns, the noun after the determinant is singular. The same with no. In affirmative sentences, there is no fish for lunch today. And any, when we use it in affirmative, it still means it doesn't matter which. For example, give me any money you have. I don't care. Just whatever you have. Right. So let's continue with a lot, lots of, much, and many. A lot and lots of have basically the same meaning. You can use either of them. We use it in affirmative sentences, both with uncountable nouns, as in there is a lot of juice in the glass, or there is lots of water in the lake. It's exactly the same, but the uncountable noun will be in the singular form, or with plural countable nouns. For example, there are a lot of apples in the bag, there are lots of students outside. Then we have many, which we will use with countable nouns, only plural countable nouns. In negative sentences, there are many oranges in the bowl, and interrogative sentences. How many friends have you got? With uncountable nouns, we will use much. The same in negative sentences, there isn't much juice in the carton, and interrogative. How much money have you got? In this case, I know that in a lot of cases, many and much are also used in affirmative sentences, especially when you're speaking. And this is very useful, and it's very economical, and it's fine when you're speaking. But in standard English, when you are trying to acquire certain property or adequacy, if you want, you should use a lot of when it is affirmative, or lots of. And then much and many, use it only in the negative and interrogative. Then we have few, a few, little, and a little. Then few is good. We will use few with plural countable nouns, and it means there is not enough. There are some, but not enough. There are few apples in the basket. We can't bake a pie. Probably there are one or two, but they are not enough to bake a pie. Little works in the same way but with uncountable nouns. It means there is not enough. There is little juice, which means I can't have a glass of juice for breakfast. Sorry, in there is not enough in the countable nouns in plural. Should be there are not enough, but I mean, you just check it out when you work it out in the chart. Just correct that. So it probably there is some juice, but there is not enough to have juice for breakfast. Then we have a few, which has a positive meaning. It is also for plural countable nouns, but it means that though there are not many, there are enough. For example, in the same exact example, if we say there are a few apples in the basket, it means that though there are not many, we have enough apples to bake a pie, to make something. It's the same for a little. With uncountable nouns, there is not much, but it is enough. There is a little juice will mean that there is not much, but I can have a glass of juice for breakfast. So basically the difference is that if you add an a in a few and a little, what you're giving it is a more positive, you're conveying a more positive meaning, being that though there are not much, there are not many, or there is no much, you still can do things with that. For example, imagine you are at a party, few friends came. It means that there were not enough people in your party to make you feel comfortable, to make it feel like a party, whatever. If you say there a few friends came to the party, it will mean that even if it is the same sentence, with this second using a few, you're giving it the meaning that though you were not many people, you were a few, you were just enough to have fun and be comfortable, and they were just the important people for you. So now, when we have uncountable nouns, of course we cannot count them, as we have seen, but still in our daily lives we do count uncountable nouns. How? Well, we use expressions with of, which help us to quantify them, to measure them. So usually as they convey that it is a container or it is a measure. For example, if we are talking about liquids, we can measure uncountable nouns with a cup of, a glass of, a bottle of, a can of, a carton of. I'm sure you can think of many more examples. If we are talking solids, a piece of, a loaf of, a slice of, a tube of, a spoonful of, a sheet of, a blade of, teaspoon of, a jar of, bar of. We will see plenty of them. And I'm sure you, in your daily lives, you use a lot of them as well. We will be working on all of them. So I hope these really helped. Complete your chart, and we'll meet tomorrow. We'll meet in the next class and just work a little bit about it. With countable and uncountable nouns, and see if you have the concepts clear. Thanks so much. See you.